My pregnant sister demanded my dream house as compensation for her morning sickness, said you owe me since you'll never be a mom anyway, so I let her move in. And then evicted her in front of her friends at her baby shower. I, 35F, have been trying to help my younger sister, Tessa, 30F, through her pregnancy struggles, but things have taken a turn for the worse. I recently bought my dream house, a 4-bedroom beauty that I've worked hard for and finally feel like I have control over my life. But my sister, who's always been a bit entitled, demanded I let her move in because of her severe morning sickness. She even said I owe her because I'll never be a mom anyway. I gave in and let her stay, but after weeks of her increasingly unreasonable behavior, I finally snapped. At her baby shower, I kicked her out in front of all her friends. Now, I'm wondering if I went too far. Am I the asshole here? It started off as a simple request. Tessa called me one evening, her voice shaky, and I could tell she was struggling. She's always been dramatic, but something in her tone made me pause. "Clarissa, I need your help," she said, voice cracking. "I can't do this anymore. I'm so sick, I feel like I'm dying." I winced. She was 6 months into her pregnancy, and I knew the morning sickness had been tough on her. We had never been particularly close growing up, but I always tried to be there when she needed me. And right now, she needed someone. "I'm sorry, Tessa. I know you've been having a rough time. What do you need?" "I need a place to stay," she said, her voice dripping with exhaustion. "Martin is working all the time and I can't take care of myself anymore. I need you to let me move in, just for a little while. You've got that big house now. I can't do this on my own, Clarissa." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I had just bought my dream house, a beautiful 4-bedroom home with large windows that let in the morning light, a garden I had been dreaming of for years, and a guest room I'd intended to turn into an office. I'd worked so hard for this house. It was my escape, my little slice of peace after years of struggles and disappointments. But here was Tessa, asking for something I wasn't sure I could give. "Tessa, I don't know," I began, unsure of how to respond. "You have everything, Clarissa," she interrupted, her voice taking on a tone of frustration. "The house, the perfect life, and no kids. You'll never be a mom, anyway. It's not like you're going to have children of your own. Can't you just do this for me? Please?" Her words stung more than I wanted to admit. I had tried for years to have a child with my ex-husband before we divorced. Aaron and I had tried IVF, but after multiple failed attempts, we'd both come to terms with the fact that children weren't in our future. Still, hearing her so casually remind me of my failure to become a mother, hit me like a punch to the gut. But she was my sister. And I knew she was going through a hard time. "Okay," I said, the words tasting bitter as I said them. "You can stay with me for a little while." The first few days weren't terrible. Tessa was nauseous a lot, which meant she stayed mostly in bed, watching TV or scrolling through her phone. She would text me constantly, asking for food or help with simple tasks. It was exhausting, but I kept telling myself I was doing the right thing. She was my sister, and I wanted to be there for her, especially when she was struggling. But soon, things started to shift. Tessa began to expect more from me. She would leave dirty dishes around the house, complaining that she was too tired to clean up. If I didn't do what she asked quickly enough, she'd snap at me. She demanded I rearrange the guest room to make it more baby-friendly, despite the fact that I had other plans for it. I would come home from work to find her lounging on the couch, telling me I had to make dinner or pick up groceries for her, even though I had just finished a long day myself. It didn't help that Martin, her boyfriend, was hardly ever around. He worked long hours, and when he was home, he stayed in his room, often leaving Tessa alone to deal with everything. It felt like I was constantly running around to take care of things. But the more I did for her, the more entitled she seemed to become. One evening, I came home to find her sobbing on the couch, the TV still on in the background. Her face was blotchy from crying, and she wiped her tears when she saw me. "Clarissa, I can't do this. I'm not ready to be a mom. This is too much." I need help. I need everything, she said, her voice rising with each word. You don't understand what I'm going through. You've had everything handed to you, your career, your house. I don't have any of that. Why do you get it all? Why do you have everything? I froze. Tessa, what are you talking about? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. I've worked hard for everything I have. I didn't just get it handed to me. She gave a bitter laugh. It doesn't matter. You've got everything, and you're going to be just fine. I'm the one who's struggling here. I need more, Clarissa. You owe me. I owe you? My voice rose in disbelief. What are you talking about? I'm doing everything I can for you. You have a house, Clarissa. A big, fancy house. It's not like you'll ever be a mom anyway. You've got no kids to worry about. I can't do this alone. So why don't you just give me what I need? You can't say no. It's the least you can do. I stood there in shock. I had been trying to help her, but this was crossing a line. She wasn't just asking for help anymore, she was demanding everything. Her words hit me harder than I'd expected, and something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the way she so casually reminded me that I would never be a mom, or maybe it was the way she'd been using me for weeks without any gratitude. But I was done. I think it's time for you to leave, Tessa, I said, my voice steady despite the storm swirling inside me. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What? Are you serious? You can't be serious. I'm serious. I've tried to help you, but this isn't working anymore. You've crossed the line, and I'm done. You're kicking me out? In the middle of my pregnancy? She was hysterical now, tears streaming down her face. You can't do this to me. This is my baby. You're being cruel. I'm not being cruel, I said, my heart pounding. You've taken advantage of my kindness, Tessa. And I'm not going to let you do it anymore. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was going to make her leave. Tessa had a baby shower planned for the weekend, and while I didn't want to be there at all, I knew it was the perfect time to put my foot down. I had already made up my mind. No more giving in to her demands. No more pretending like she wasn't taking advantage of me. The baby shower day arrived, and the house was filled with Tessa's friends. They were laughing, chatting, the smell of cake in the air. I could hear them in the next room, excited about the baby, cooing over the little onesies and toys. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked into the room, where Tessa was sitting, surrounded by her friends. I didn't say a word at first. I just stood there, watching her, and then I spoke, my voice calm but firm. Tessa, it's time for you to leave, I said, making sure everyone could hear. She froze, staring at me in shock. What? Are you serious right now? Yes. I'm serious. I stepped forward, watching as her friends looked between us, confused. You've taken advantage of me for too long. This ends now. Pack your things. You're leaving. Tessa's face turned pale, then flushed with anger. She stood up, trembling with rage. You're throwing me out in front of everyone? This is my baby shower, Clarissa. You can't do this. I've already made up my mind, I said, my voice unwavering. You need to leave. Now. The room was silent. Tessa's friends whispered among themselves, some of them trying to console her, but I didn't care. I had done enough for her. She needed to face the consequences of her actions. Tessa grabbed her things and stormed out, leaving the room in stunned silence. I didn't feel a sense of relief, not yet. But something inside me knew it was the right decision. I couldn't keep living my life for her. I had my own happiness to protect. Tessa's departure was more chaotic than I had anticipated. I stood there in the aftermath, my heart pounding in my chest, watching her storm out, her friends scrambling to figure out what just happened. The air was thick with awkwardness and tension. No one knew how to react. For a moment, I considered running after her, trying to smooth things over, maybe apologize for how things had escalated. But then I remembered the weeks of frustration, the endless demands, the guilt trips, the manipulation. No, I wasn't going to back down. Not this time. Her friends lingered for a few minutes, unsure of what to do. I could hear them whispering, but I couldn't make out their words. Finally, one of them, a girl I didn't recognize, stepped forward. "Is everything okay?" she asked hesitantly. That was really intense. I nodded, trying to keep my composure. "Yeah. Everything's fine. It just got out of hand." Another friend, a woman who I'd known for years, spoke up, her voice soft. "Clarissa, we've never seen you like this. Are you sure this is the right thing to do? I mean, she's pregnant." I could feel their eyes on me, waiting for an explanation, for some sort of justification. And I was exhausted, tired of explaining myself to everyone, tired of constantly feeling like I was the bad guy. "I'm sure," I said quietly, the words firm, even though I felt a knot tightening in my stomach. "She's been treating me horribly for weeks. She's been rude, demanding, and manipulative. I've tried to help, but she's gone too far. I had to set boundaries." There was a pause. I could see the doubt in their eyes, and maybe I even understood it. It was hard to imagine kicking out a pregnant woman, even if she was family. But I knew I couldn't keep enabling her. Not after everything she'd put me through. The room felt stifling, the tension so thick I could hardly breathe. Slowly, one by one, her friends began to leave, muttering things like, "I hope everything works out," or "I'm really sorry, Clarissa." I didn't say anything in response. I just watched them go, my mind racing. When the last guest left, I stood in the middle of the living room, the remnants of the baby shower scattered around me. The balloons, the cake, the gifts, all of it seemed so out of place now. My sanctuary, my dream home, had become the setting of an emotional battlefield. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I walked upstairs to my bedroom, closing the door behind me. I collapsed onto the bed, burying my face in the pillows. Tears threatened to spill, but I didn't let them. I was angry. Angry at Tessa. Angry at myself for letting things go so far. But most of all, I was angry that this had become the story of my life, the constant giving, the constant being taken advantage of, and the pain that came with it. The next few days were a blur. Tessa didn't call, didn't text, didn't reach out at all. Part of me expected her to come back, to apologize, maybe even beg for forgiveness. But I didn't hear from her. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of peace. It was quiet in the house, too quiet, but I didn't mind. I needed the space, the time to breathe without her hovering over me, constantly demanding more than I could give. I spent the following weekend alone. I took long walks through the neighborhood, savoring the solitude, the absence of drama. I could almost pretend that everything was normal, that I hadn't just kicked my sister out of my home. But the truth was, I didn't regret it, not entirely. Still, there were moments when doubt crept in. Was I being too harsh? Was I really justified in what I had done? Tessa was pregnant, after all. And though her behavior had been toxic, she was still family. I had tried to make things work, but in the end, it felt like I had no other choice. I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in my gut, though. The weight of the decision pressed down on me, making it hard to focus on anything else. I hadn't heard from Tessa since that day. No apology, no attempt to reach out, no acknowledgement of what had happened. And that hurt more than I was willing to admit. By the time Monday rolled around, I was back at work, trying to distract myself with the demands of my job. But my mind kept drifting back to Tessa. I knew she was upset, probably furious. She hadn't even bothered to reach out to Aaron, and I could tell he was beginning to grow concerned. He knew about the fight, of course. He had been there when I let her move in, and he'd been supportive, but I could tell it was wearing on him too. "Are you okay?" he asked one evening as we sat down to dinner. "You've been really quiet." I looked at him, unsure of what to say. "I'm fine. Just processing everything. You know, with Tessa. He nodded, his brow furrowing. I know. I hate to say it, but I think you did the right thing. She's been taking advantage of you for months. I know, I said quietly, pushing my food around on my plate. But it doesn't feel right. It feels wrong, kicking her out like that. I don't know if I did the right thing. Aaron reached over and took my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. You did what you had to do. No one should be treated like that, especially by family. I know it's hard, but you set boundaries. You can't keep letting her walk all over you. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But the guilt still lingered. It wasn't just about Tessa. It was about me, too. About how I had spent so many years trying to please others, trying to keep everything intact even when it wasn't healthy. And now, here I was, alone in my own house, finally standing up for myself, but at what cost? Days passed. Weeks even. Tessa didn't reach out. I didn't reach out either. It was a silent standoff, each of us waiting for the other to break. I wasn't sure if I was ready to make the first move, to swallow my pride and call her. But something inside me said it was time. It was time to face the consequences of my actions, to see if there was any way to repair what had been broken. I picked up the phone. But before I could dial her number, my heart skipped a beat. I saw an unfamiliar number flash on the screen. It was from Tessa. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Hello? There was silence on the other end, then a shaky voice. Clarissa? It was her. Tessa. I could hear the tension in her voice. She sounded like she'd been crying, her words almost inaudible. I don't know what to say, she whispered. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't mean to push you like that. I was just scared. And I guess I took it all out on you. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the beginning of something better. Maybe we could fix things. But I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I sat quietly for a moment, letting her words sink in. I sat in silence, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Part of me wanted to rush to her, to say it was okay, to forgive her. But another part of me, probably the wiser part, wasn't ready to let go of the pain, the anger, the frustration. Not yet. Why now? I finally asked, my voice steady but cool. Why after everything? After the baby shower? After you demanded so much from me? She hesitated before responding, the crack in her voice betraying her emotions. I was selfish, Clarissa. I was hurt and scared, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I was jealous of everything you had, everything you've achieved. And I just took it out on you. She sniffled. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things. Especially about you never being a mom. That was cruel. I took a deep breath, feeling the familiar sting of old wounds. Her apology, though long overdue, wasn't enough to heal the damage. But it was a start. And for once, I didn't feel the need to fix things right away. For the first time in a long time, I realized it wasn't my responsibility to make everything right. You've hurt me, Tessa, I said quietly. I don't think you fully understand the toll this has taken on me. I've tried to support you, to help you, and all I've gotten in return is disrespect and manipulation. I can't keep doing that. I won't. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could practically hear her thinking, weighing my words. I know, she said softly, the weight of her own guilt evident in her voice. I know I've been awful to you, and I can't change that. But I'm asking for a chance to make it right. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I want to try. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Her apology wasn't enough to undo everything, but maybe, just maybe, it was a step in the right direction. I stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the garden. The house felt empty without Tessa's presence, but I realized that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I'd gotten so used to filling the space with her demands, her drama, that it had almost become normal. But this silence, felt like peace. No, I said finally, the decision clear in my mind. I'm not going to let you back in, Tessa. You've taken enough from me already. I've given you chances before, and you've squandered them. You need to figure this out on your own. For your sake and for mine. There was a long pause, and for a moment, I thought she might hang up. But then she spoke, her voice low. I deserve that. I know I do. I exhaled, relieved that she wasn't fighting me on this. You need to find your own path, Tessa. You've had the chance to lean on me, but now it's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet. Another silence stretched between us, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like a weight was lifting. Okay, she said, her voice softer now. I'll figure it out. But, thank you for listening. I didn't respond immediately. What could I say? Part of me wanted to hang up and never speak to her again, but another part of me realized that the damage had already been done. I wasn't going to erase it, but maybe this was the end of the cycle. This was where I stopped letting her manipulate me, where I stopped being the one to bend. I'll always love you, Tessa, I said finally. But you need to change. I can't keep sacrificing myself for you. She didn't say anything else after that. The line went quiet, and I ended the call. I didn't feel relief or guilt or any of the emotions I expected. It just felt final. The weeks that followed were strange. Tessa didn't reach out again, not once. There was no apology in person, no tear-filled plea to come back. Instead, I continued with my life, focusing on my work and on making my home truly mine again. I'd spent so many years making sure my family was taken care of, making sure Tessa had everything she needed. It was hard to let go, but once I did, I found a kind of freedom I hadn't realized I was missing. I began redecorating the guest room, the one I had originally intended to be an office, before she moved in. It felt empowering to transform it into what I wanted, not just for myself, but as a symbol of my independence. I started doing the things I had neglected over the years, taking long walks, visiting friends, and even signing up for a cooking class. It felt like I was rediscovering parts of myself I had abandoned. One day, a few months later, Tessa showed up on my doorstep. She was standing there, pregnant belly prominent, her eyes uncertain. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I opened the door anyway. Clarissa, she began, her voice softer than I remembered. I just wanted to apologize. I know it's been a while, but I think I've finally gotten the message. I was selfish and hurtful, and I should have never put you in that position. I looked at her for a long moment, unsure of what to say. Tessa, I'm not going to lie. You hurt me. You hurt me more than I think you realize. And I'm still not over it. But I appreciate that you're finally taking responsibility for your actions. She nodded, her eyes welling up. I'm not asking for you to forgive me right away. I just wanted to come here, to let you know that I'm changing. I'm trying. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, and it was a step forward. But I wasn't going to rush anything. Not after everything. I'm glad you're trying, I said, my voice steady. But we're not going to go back to the way things were. Not unless you show me that things have really changed. You can't just come into my life whenever it's convenient for you, Tessa. That's not how it works anymore. She nodded again, swallowing hard. I understand. I wanted you to know that I'm not the same person anymore. I studied her for a moment, searching her face for any signs of insincerity. There weren't any. But I wasn't going to let her back in right away. I wasn't going to be anyone's backup plan or emotional crutch anymore. I'm glad to hear that, I said finally. But right now, I need time. Time for myself. She nodded, and without another word, she turned and left. I watched her walk away, and for the first time, I didn't feel that familiar pull to chase after her, to try and fix things. Instead, I closed the door behind me and took a deep breath. The following weeks passed quietly. Tessa didn't contact me again, and I didn't contact her. We existed in separate worlds now, and I realized how much lighter I felt without her demands weighing on me. For the first time in years, I was living for myself. My dream house was exactly that now, a dream realized. It was mine, and I was in control of my life. The shadows of the past had faded, and I was no longer the one holding everything together. I'd made my decision, and even though it was painful, even though it left scars, it was necessary. The house, my life, it was all mine. And that was enough. As for Tessa? I had given her a chance. I had tried to help, but in the end, she had to help herself. If she ever decided to make that change, I'd be here. But it would be on my terms. And for now, that was all I needed.